Facebook and YouTube. It's Merritt Minnemeyer with Master of One Coaching here once again on Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, every Friday for Leadership Live Fridays. Yay! Cue Muppet clap. And today, I have the great pleasure of welcoming my dear, dear friend, not old, as I said in the description, but dear, dear friend, Jason Hedden. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning to you. Old as in like good old.
Good old, like long time. It's been a while old. Yeah. And Jason, where are you signing in from today?
I am in my office at Gulf Coast State College in Panama City, Florida, in the Division of Visual and Performing Arts.
Where you are the chair, yes?
I am, yes. I'm a theater professor and the chair of Visual and Performing Arts, which is pretty cool because I was a student here 25 years ago. So I came full circle in 2008 and am now providing leadership for the same program I was in as a student, which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, really, really cool. And you are a multi-talented, multifaceted gentleman. You have copious amounts of education and experience and are one of the funniest human beings I've ever come across in my life. And
wow, you need a bigger circle.
Not at all. But you're a writer, an actor, a producer, director, teacher, certainly, a partner to wonderful Rebecca, a dad to very handsome and newly developing a mustache Cameron, as we talked about. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your story as you would like to present it. And by the way, for those of you out there in online land, please feel free to add your comments and questions as we will bring them up as they occur. So go ahead, Jason, tell us about you.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be here with you. It's funny, we've got to do things like this in order to catch up with our friends. It's like, you want to be on my podcast? Sure, we haven't talked in years yet. No, it's great. It's great. It's great to be here. I usually tell people that I got bit by the bug in middle school. We had this drama teacher who took all the wannabe class clowns and put them in this class called drama. And we spent 2 years reenacting the original Saturday Night Live sketches, the Belushi stuff and the Gilda Radner. And I had this skater hair at the time, and I'd put it up in a big ponytail on the top and do the samurai divorce court and all those, all those sort of originals. And I was just sort of hooked. And then I sort of became the cliched sort of theater kid. And that was my thing. I played sports, but I was never very good at them. So when I had to choose between theater and athletics, it was not really a choice. It was pretty obvious. I did the first 2 years of high school in Virginia and then moved down to Florida and, did the International Thespian Society, the theater competition, all that, drama club president, that sort of stuff. Got into some big, expensive schools in New York and some big, expensive schools in Miami. And for financial reasons, reluctantly came to Gulf Coast, where I now teach. But as is true for a lot of our current students, I found this place to be extremely welcoming, a safe space, a great first step. And my teachers and my mentors, gave me a strong foundation. And we found that when we transferred off to university, we were as prepared, if not more prepared, than the native students at university. And that felt really good to go in going, hey, we're not behind, we're actually ahead. And I was at the University of South Florida and studied theater performance, and then graduated and moved out west. So all my friends were in New York, and I was like, I don't know, not a lot of people are working. I like mountains and ocean, and I had a grandmother on Whidbey Island, and then that's where our paths crossed in the early 2000s. So I was out in Seattle for 3 years and did a lot of children's theater and a lot of Shakespeare, and got to meet you and work with you. We were reminiscing about that off camera. And then I came to the first of many decisions that have hit me where I don't always know what I want, but I know what I don't want. And I didn't want to be 40, living in a basement apartment in Seattle with no health insurance. And yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that to say, but I just sort of knew that's not what I wanted. So enjoyed teaching. Wanted to teach at the college level, so you got to have a master's degree to do that. So applied to grad school, and only applied to programs that offered a full ride. So I took a slightly safer bet there. A lot of friends were going to ERDAs, and there were those big screening auditions, and you had to pass the screeners. And I'm like, if I'm going to move my family cross country again, I kind of want to have a little more time. So I flew to 4 different cities, and psychologically, I told people, yeah, I'm doing a one-man show, 4 cities across the country, and
I love that. What a
which,
great reframe for you.
yeah, what sounds better than, I'm auditioning, and if I don't get in, what's going to happen? So anyway, I got into Ohio State, and I did an MFA in acting and new works there, and they were on the quarter system at the time, so I had the opportunity to teach. I came out with 3 years of solid college level teaching experience, which was pretty exciting. And I love that. And then I quickly found that the college level teaching jobs were as hard to get as the acting gigs, the professional acting gigs. And I remember we had a map over our couch of all the applications we put in. We put in like 60, full dossier, the whole deal. Put a thumbtack. If we got a phone interview, we put a paper clip on the thumbtack. If we got an on-site interview, I put a charm on the paper clip. There were not many paper clips, and even fewer charms. And that's funny. And that's when you and Peter were leaving the job in California. And I remember Peter said to me, hey, do you think about interested in this job? And I remember thinking or saying in an arrogant way, I went to grad school. I'm not going to teach high school, right? And after all those interviews later, I called Pete up, and I'm like, hey, Pete, is that job still available?
Well, it's funny. I remember. So for those of you who don't know out there in the world, that Peter was my first husband who passed away in 2012, and you and he were all the 4 of us were really good. And I remember thinking, like, he was like, I love this program. I built this program up. I really believe in it, and I know it's time for me to move on. And who would I trust to pass the torch to? Because I don't want just some schmuck coming in here and taking it over. Like, I love these kids. I believe in this program. Yeah. And I was like, what about Jason?
So it's your fault. Okay.
It's kind of my fault. Yeah. It's kind of my fault.
Well, it worked out, and it was great. And we were out there for 2 years, and didn't know how good we had it at a private school with big budgets. In my current role as a theater professor, I have a respect and understanding for what my K-12 colleagues are doing at the high school, particularly if they're a one-man, one-woman operation. I know what that's like, so I wouldn't trade that time for anything. But in 2008, the opportunity opened up here at Gulf Coast, and we moved out here. Or you mentioned my son Cameron. He's 13 now, but he was 14 days old at the time, and we put him on a plane and flew out here. And I started a week late, and so it's very easy to track my time here at Gulf Coast State College because it coincides with his years on the planet. And so here we are in my 14th year, which is crazy. And so I was a theater professor for 7 years, and then in 2015 I took over as division chair, and we have art, music, theater, and entertainment tech. So now I teach some. I do a lot of administration. I do a lot of producing, and that sort of led to some side hustles. I work as a stand-up comedian, which still sounds a little funny to say, but I guess if you're doing it all over the Southeast and they're paying you for it, I guess I'm technically a professional stand-up comedian, which thankfully that's not all I'm doing, because stand-up comedy doesn't pay as well as you might have hoped. But yeah, so that's it. I now have my hands in lots of things, and I'm now trying to figure out what's the next thing, or how do I dig deeper and put a little more roots in where I am right now. So that's the short long version.
Well, and thank you for sharing that journey with us and the audience. And I have a couple of comments here. One from VJ, who says, "Hi, Merritt and Jason." Hello. And Matt Silverman, who I work with extensively. Matt says, "This is great. Another opening, another show, another boatload of paperwork."
Yes, as you can see. But
and Matt is a professional writer, 13 times published professional writer. So he knows all about the paperwork. Okay, so Jason, tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to go into. We mentioned certainly wanting to take care of your family.
Sure.
And you and I met at a time when we were both exploring what it means to be a teacher and working with kids and inspiring young minds and the next generation of theater professionals or just human beings, right?
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit more about how that inspiration either sparked in you and or played out for you. Not just, I mean, in terms of your professional work, but like what kind of lights you up about that?
Sure. I think I love, I mean, especially why I came back to college. Like, I remember coming in with one set of preconceived notions about what the theater was or what the life of an artist was or what, and then coming when I came to school, came to college, like that totally flipped it on its head. I remember I reminisced recently about my first trip to New York in 1997 and getting to see stuff on Broadway for the first time. But prior to that, if I had just gone to, say, a performing arts center in a large city, I could draw no connection between what I was doing in school and what I was seeing on that huge, massive stage in that arena. I remember, seeing Les Mis in Nashville, in, I don't know, 93, something like that. I don't know. And like, it was so distant from one. But that first trip to New York and got to do some backstage experiences and I was sitting backstage at or a pickup rehearsal for Grease that was on Broadway at the time, and a buddy of mine's uncle was the music conductor, a music director, and there were these kids, these students that were our age in a Broadway show, and we just graduated from community college, and I heard this guy give a professional actor the same note my professor had given me 3 weeks earlier in a practice studio in Panama City, Florida. And I thought, so good work is good work is good work, whether it's on Broadway, whether it's in Hudson Valley, whether it's in, Weewa, Hitchcock, Florida. And that was sort of a sort of a little bit of a wake up call to me that, okay, there is a craft, there is a discipline here. And up to this point, like a lot of people, it's sort of just been winging it on energy and enthusiasm. Nothing wrong with that. I've been winging it for 25 years on energy and enthusiasm, but it at least taught me that there was something that needs to be learned in a craft. And so that's when it got exciting. And I guess working with students, the age that the lights went off for me is sort of exciting, and I went off to grad school and did things. And then coming back to Gulf Coast, I remember thinking, hey, if I could give them these things sooner, they'll be that much further ahead. Even when I taught high school in California, I didn't water it down just because they were high school kids. It's not like, oh no, this is the information that you don't get to have for another 6 years. We're saving these secrets. No, I was trying to give it to them in high school. And some of them were ready for it. And then same thing here. So I love, it's sort of that teacher cliche, but I like being there for that light going off, that aha moment. I love rehearsal more than performance. I love being there the first time we discover something. If we never performed, I'd be fine with that. We'll just do the Moscow Art Theater thing and, rehearse for 3 years and then never perform because it's just not ready.
Boy, wouldn't that be? It's such a luxury now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So to me, it's that. It's I've had mentors and teachers in my life that had believed in me more than I believed in myself. And so now one of the goals is to sort of be that person for the next group of students and connect them. I'm a co-founder of Emerald Coast Theater Company. It's about 45 minutes away. And so our students have the opportunity in their first 2 years of college to get professional credits on their resume. And I tell them every time I can, there's no reason why you should not take advantage of this. It's 45 minutes away. And some of them are like, it's 45 minutes. Then they move off to Atlanta and they realize it's going to take 45 minutes to get from work to their apartment. So, but it's good.
Well, I know that what you're saying too is, I mean, and it's true in your own story and what you're doing professionally now too, like this. And this, I think, is shifting now. I'm seeing it as I have a high school aged kid, and the conversations that he's having about what's next, college or professional, whatever.
Yeah.
But this shift from like when you and I were coming up, like you have to go to college and you have to do the thing and you have to check off the box, right? Because that's how you get to be professional, whatever, right? And what you did with your own life and your own course, and now doing for other students, is saying, hey, there are other options besides having to go spend $1 bazillion on a degree that you may or may not use in your professional life, or at least obviously, right? And that you can have an incredible amount of quality experience, education, network building, right? You could have your eyes open in so many different ways, in venues that may not appear as flashy as some other ones, but as Brene Brown says, which is what you did, a version of what you just said too, like people are people. Like no matter who you're speaking to, a group of, 1,000 CEOs, or a room full of Tony Award winners, or you're talking to a classroom full of, 18-year-old, 17-year-old kids who are just starting out, like the work is the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have high quality work, it doesn't matter what venue you're in. It doesn't matter how much you've paid for it. Or what clothes you're wearing, any of that stuff. What matters is what's your commitment? What's your commitment to your work? And how open are you to being coached and growing? And because it is possible no matter who you are, no matter where you are, but you have to be committed and you have to be open, right?
I couldn't agree more. I remember saying I like rehearsal. I've in my 13 and a half years here, I've had a half a dozen moments in rehearsal over the years where I've just stopped and I've said, you know what, y'all, this run through, what you just did, this scene, this moment, this is as good as anyone working anywhere. This is it. This is the gig. This is it. And I got goosebumps just saying that.
I did too.
It's because it's true, and it just like sort of shocks me to the core. The disadvantage of being in a smaller community is you can sometimes atrophy by not having exposure to what's next or the next level. I feel really strongly that, if you're the best person, at what you do, you need to find a new group of friends.
Yeah, you're in the wrong group or the wrong room.
Yeah. Like, it's like my favorite analogy is that, if you're a runner and you want to get faster, you have to run with people that are faster than you. And if you're somewhere where you're the fastest runner, then you're going to have to relocate either physically or through professional development, the kind of coaching that you do, whatever that is. You've got to find a way, because it's easy to get comfortable. That's probably the greatest strength and greatest weakness of where I am right now in terms of the culture of our community and our school. It's a very welcoming place, maybe sometimes too welcoming, such that people are afraid to take that first step and step out.
Oh, that's interesting.
And things like that. But I think it's essential for sure.
And where do you see your influence reaching now? Like, I mean, you said about how you sort of sending the students off on their way into other ventures, but when you see your students succeeding in one way or another, or looking at something differently, like how's that played out for you in terms of your influence and how you've experienced it through your students or through whatever else work you've done?
Yeah. That's a good question. It's funny. We're getting to the age now where our colleagues are in charge of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I was talking.
Showed up, actually.
I was talking to some students the other day about the idea of just relationships and networking, and not in a cheesy Amway way. No offense to Amway distributors or whatever they call themselves now. But it's really just as practical as, the other day I had a former student who's needed a letter of recommendation or not. Yeah, a letter of recommendation. And I thought, I did I have you as a student? And I was like, it turns out I didn't, and I had to direct them the right way. Or I had another student who listed me as a reference for a job. And reminding them that these relationships that you're building right now, like this, your soft skills, your punctuality to class, this is the stuff that I'm going to be asked about in a year or two when
Yeah.
you need that reference. And I have to tell the truth, right? Because
Yeah.
because it's now our, it's then my reputation sort of on the line. And
Mhm.
so to
Your
kind of just
integrity. Yeah.
trying to just remind them that it's all much smaller than we think it is. Talk a lot about opportunity and taking advantage of opportunities and work ethic. And so ironically, I feel like, I have a lot of students that don't necessarily go into theater. We have students that go across the street to FSU Panama City and study professional communication or entrepreneurship. So the foundation that we're giving them is going to serve them in lots of different areas. But I feel like I do a lot of teaching, or maybe it's more just reminding of like work ethic. Nobody turns on work ethic when Spielberg calls. It's like, now I'm reliable. Now I'm punctual. No, you've been practicing for this,
Mhm.
and I can see it pretty consistently. The most talented students, um, though all the years I've been doing this, I'm still not sure what that word means or what it means to you or what it means to me. But for lack of a better term, are not always, almost consistently, not the most successful. It's that
Absolutely.
it's like
Absolutely.
that second or third tier that does the work. And
Mhm.
it's almost cliched, but it's like clockwork. I can
Mhm.
I can almost I can almost predict, you know, success, based on soft skill stuff.
Yeah.
And just being able to get your life in order, the
Mhm.
basic stuff. Having to give them the speech about this is the easiest it will always be, even when it's really hard. And that's been a hard speech in the last 3 years, particularly with the pandemic. And fall of 2018, our community went through a Category 5 hurricane.
Right.
um, Most of our performance venues are still offline. I get calls every day, people looking for space. We have 3 venues in the entire county that will seat 500 people, for a county of, 200,000, so it's an issue. But those despite that, there are people that are making it happen, and trying to just inspire them and motivate them to not wait for it to get easy before you take that leap.
Mhm.
As soon as I have enough money, as soon as I have the perfect set of colleagues, as soon as I have the perfect set, it'll never happen. It'll never happen, um, if you wait for the perfect conditions.
Right.
That's something I'm trying to teach myself too. Like, I think that's why I'm a teacher, Merritt. I'm a teacher, so I can at least still have a front row to seat to learning.
And I mean, I totally relate to that. I find that I'm a complete professional development geek. Like I absolutely love it. And it's started from, teaching. And that's why I do what I do because I'm immersed in it all the time and I get to have a front row seat. Like
Yeah,
I'm the person who show us still to this day, shows up at every conference and I'm in the front row. I'm like,
yeah,
me, me. And that's why I do what I do. And I think what you said is so beautiful and so right on the money. I have so many people who come to me too, and they're saying, well, when I have enough money, then I can make this commitment to myself. When I have enough resources, and the logic is actually backwards or flipped, right? It's not about if then, it's about when you commit, then the things will show up. Then you'll be able to
yeah,
create them. Then they will flow to where you want them to flow. And it's the same thing with what you're saying there too, right? When you commit to yourself, you will become the actor, the performer, the person, the human that you
right.
are looking to emerge into. Like that, the commitment and the leap courage to make to leap into the commitment to yourself comes first.
Yeah, yeah. The confidence comes from the experience,
That's right.
and the experience comes from just doing it. I mean,
Faith. Faith,
and
basically.
yeah, and Bogart's one of my favorite directors, and she write you. I know you have a special place in your heart as well, and in her director prepares book, she's like, you want to be a director? Go direct something. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's it. What do you mean?
Mhm.
I'm teaching a directing class right now at the college, and they're doing 3 projects. They're directing 3 things.
Yeah.
Where there's not a lot of there's advice and guidance along the way, but it's a lot of just let's do it. And they're
Mhm.
already learning that working with the actors is the easy part. It's the logistics, the marrying of schedules, the
Mhm. Mhm.
covering for this person who got called into work on the day of the showing.
Oh, well,
It's all that stuff.
and this is why I always say too that theater is such a great training ground for life and for being a human, and actually for business too, right? It's the same in entrepreneurship.
Right.
It's like, being the visionary. Yeah, that, I mean, we need visionaries, and we need those people to show up, and the people who would say, yeah, I've got an idea, I'm just going to go do it. That's brilliant. And also we need the people, the stage managers, the producers, the people who are the one to follow through people. We're going to hold you accountable. We're going to say,
Hmm.
this is what the process you need to go through. This is when you need to show up. This is when this happens. And that we need all of those people. And and so I love the 2 things that you just said, which I think are brilliant. One is just do it. Like, so for people who are looking out there, who are committing to whatever they want to commit to, whether it's
Yeah.
a new job, a new venture, a new creative project, a new entrepreneurial idea, right? Just go out and do it. Like,
Right. Or at
just,
least find that the baby step. I'm like a
right.
big thinker, but I'm like a pragmatic visionary. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, but that's great. We have these big conversations, but all right, let's go down. So what's a baby step?
Hmm.
What's a baby step? I had a woman call me the other day. She saw the news about our alumnus Matthew Lopez, who just won the Tony for best play and was my college roommate, and couldn't be more thrilled for him. So I'm starting to get calls from people in the community who are wanting to, like, hey, I got this idea for a play, and I'm talking to her, and literally in the first phone call, she said, wouldn't it be cool if we had 2 Tony Award winners, from town? And I'm like, yeah, but let's back up. Let's back up. Let's back up. You you need a script first.
Hmm.
It's the step one. I mean, step one is not Tony. Step one is we need a draft of the script, and I'm not minimizing her aspirations in any way, but just trying to redirect to say, okay, what's an achievable, tangible task that you can look at and see, like, oh, okay, by such and such a date, I'm going to have a rough draft of this thing. I'm going to have this plan. I'm going to have the business model. I'm going to have something. I'm going to have done some coaching. I'm going to have done some professional development,
Hmm.
something to tick off so that you can see that it's happening. We alluded to producing, like when you and I were working together, I don't even think I really knew what that meant.
No.
Like, I don't like produce. What do producers do? They produce? What? I don't get it. And now I find myself, I do a lot of producing. I produce comedy shows. I produce theater events, and it plays into some of my strengths and interest, which is just really sort of bringing people together and bringing the right people together and taking an idea from thought to fruition, right? I mean, they're project managers in the business world, but that's
Mhm.
kind of what we do as directors, as theater directors. We take this abstract thing and we bring it in on time and on budget, and that's sort of the goal and the gig. So it's weird that I still don't even really know what producing is, but I'm doing a lot of it. So
Well, essentially, it's making things happen, right? Or it's being the conduit and the facilitator,
hmm
the place in which other people can collaborate, right? Holding that space for collaboration so that the magic happens.
right.
That's the role. Yeah. Uh, awesome. Okay, cool. So thank you for sharing all of that. I love all the connections between what we're both doing now. And tell me then, if so, this is the point at which we go, what's your golden nugget, which I think is kind of a cheesy way to put
Sure.
it, but essentially, like, what is the one takeaway that you'd like people to hear today from you?
Well, Golden Nugget, that's an odd phrase because that's the name of a gentleman's club in our community. So whenever, whenever, whenever we use that phrase in class, the students are like, "What? Whoa, whoa, whoa." So we've had to. What did you glean from this class?
That's
We had
another
to.
conversation in another
Yes,
show.
yes. We opt for the term glean to get what you're
Yes.
saying, at least
Mhm.
for local viewers. I guess it's circling back, Merritt, to what we said before. The biggest one is just not waiting for the perfect opportunity to start something. I know a lot of people my age and even my parents' age that for whatever reason what they're doing is not what they really want to be doing.
Mm.
And that's not to say, I mean, if you're the sole breadwinner from your family, I'm not gonna run off and be a touring stand-up comedian tomorrow. That's not practical. But I can certainly continue to network, continue to create opportunities. So I think that my golden nuggets, I'm gonna get two. So
Okay.
it's one is to just be bold and sort of take that first step, get it out of theory into practice. Don't dream about that Tony Award. Write the rough draft of the script and then the thing is make it manageable. What's that first step, a baby step, something that you can look back at. I read something the other day. Every once in a while you get inspired by the social media memes, and there was one of them that said something like, "Remember when you wanted what you now have,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that's hard for a lot of us to be present, even though that's what acting attempts to teach us is to be completely present and in the moment. A lot of us that are goal oriented are chomping at the bit for that next thing. What's that next thing? What's that next thing? But I do think it's helpful to reflect a little bit too and see. All right, we have come a long way
Yeah.
from those dreams as 20 somethings or whatever. So I think that's it.
Or
It's not a,
even
it's not
40
a
something.
clean nugget. Yeah, or 50 somethings. We had a couple. My first year teaching here at the college, we had a couple in their early 70s who went through the 2-year theater program.
Oh my gosh,
It
that's
was it
amazing.
was amazing. It was it was it
That's
was it
amazing. I
was
love
such an enriching experience for everybody
that.
involved. So
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of a story that I'll probably tell you when we're done.
oh okay
But
okay
an elderly couple that used to come to the NYU shows and like sit in the front row and heckle the actors, the college actors. But that's another time. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I might even add, in my world, we talk a lot about the both and, right? So
mm-hmm.
I would say, from my perspective, dream about the Tony Award, and
Mm.
and when it gets tough, when you're like frustrated and annoyed and want to quit, that's what drives you to the next level. Like, remember that. I mean, even if you don't get to the Tony, you might get further than you would if you just thought, well, I just want to write a script. Like, right. So dream about the big dream and let it drive you towards the next thing. Right. Because
Right.
even if it's that saying of, you know, shoot for the moon, even if you don't make it, you'll land among the stars. Right.
Yeah.
So, um, and don't get caught up in that being the only thing, right? Like, because that's not the only goal. There's riches beyond imagining just on the journey, right? Just on the first step and the first draft and the first rehearsal and the right and the
Mm-hmm.
first production, the first reading. Like, there's all these amazing jewels and riches that you can experience there. And if it goes to that extreme place, that's awesome. But by the way, even winning a Tony is amazing, but that doesn't secure anything necessarily either.
Sure. Sure.
Because even in the Broadway world, right, the next gig is still just the next gig.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
very few people even get to the point where, they're turning away work. Like, I know several Tony Award winners who are like, I still need the next gig. Like, it's not like it's like made everything, it's a great feather in the cap, but people are people, people are people, people, people.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So if that makes
I know. No, that's awesome. You remind me of something. And I know we're um, wrapping up here, but the other thing that's been true for me, and I didn't realize it till hindsight and thinking back on it, is is a bit of advice, is not knocking on the same doors that everyone else is knocking on.
Mm.
Like finding that side route in. For example, I mean, the first time I performed a solo show um, in New York by going through like the healthcare industry. I created a solo show in graduate
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
and then suddenly I find myself in, an art loft in Chelsea doing this solo show for all my friends in New York, and I'm like, how did this happen? And I look back on it, and sometimes it's finding that side door, or finding that alternate, that path where there's not the flood, just the math of it, that there's less competition. We tell our students right now, you're one of 30 theater majors right here. You're at this school, you're one of 300. So at the end of 2 years, who's going to have the thicker resume? Mathematically, it's you. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I realize now, looking back on things, that sometimes it was the alternate path, or not the most obvious one, that led to some successes.
Yeah. And what I love about what you just said there too is that you followed that healthcare project that because of
Hmm.
something that was really, really meaningful to you personally.
Hmm.
And so there was something about that was like inspired you to follow that was specific to you, to your journey, to your life, to your passions,
Right.
your experiences. And that is such a gift to be able to hear that or see it and go, oh, that's the impulse I'm going to follow. Because that really speaks to purpose, individual purpose, right? And so by doing that, you were able to create a pathway for yourself that was unique and that was able to open doors for you that were not going to open to other people because it was unique
Yeah.
to you. So you followed that impulse in a way that was so beautiful and beautifully crafted, by the way. And I remember seeing videos of it. And yeah, I mean, what a great lesson that you can share to other people too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, you reminded me of that. So yeah.
Yay! All right, my friend. So thank you so much for being here today. It's wonderful to have all of your wisdom and your experience and just to connect with you. It's just really lovely. How can people find you? I know that they can find you through the college, but
Sure.
where
Um,
else would you like them to?
probably the easiest way to find me, because I link everything I do through the website, is you can go to jasonhedden.com. So
Okay.
that's the easiest. I'm on social media at Jason Hedden Comedy and Gulf Coast State College Theater, but the central hub, everything sort of goes through the website there.
Awesome. I put it in the comments there. So for those of you watching on the replay, first of all, those of you watching live, thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you watching on the replay, please go ahead and put your comments in or questions, and we can come back and address them later. And Jason, thank you so much for being here. It's such a joy to connect.
You made my day. This is the highlight of
Aw.
my week. Thank you.
You bet. So if you hang on 1 second, I'm just going to sign off and then I'll reconnect
Sure.
one more. Okay, thanks. All right, everybody, that wraps up another episode of Leadership Live Fridays. We're here every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube, Master of Wine Coaching, my personal profile, Merritt Minnemeyer. For more information about Jason, please visit him at jasonhedden.com. That's in the comments there. And if you would like to know more about the programs we're offering to help you become the most incredible leader you can be and change the world in the way that you know you can, because based on your calling, your own inspiration, and following that impulse into a world-changing business, then come join us at masterofonecoaching.com. I'm running a special right now for a free of charge energy leadership assessment, which is a diagnostic assessment that will let you know where you are and how to help you go from where you want to get. And I have a few spots left open on my program right now, Becoming the Boss. So if you are an entrepreneur who is interested in changing the world for the better, and you are scaling quickly and you're getting overwhelmed by all the responsibilities and feel the weight of the world on your shoulders and are losing sight of who you are and where you are in your personal life, and you want to make sure that you can actually make this thing have the impact that you dream that it will make, then come join us in Becoming the Boss. You can set up an appointment with me on my website, masterofonecoaching.com, and we'll talk about the opportunities available to you. That's it for this week. Thank you so much. I'm taking next week off, but I will post a replay of a previous episode, and I'll see you in 2 weeks live right here, 10 o'clock Eastern. Have a great weekend.